The envelope was heavy when I set it down on the gift table. I remember the weight of it, thick with cash and checks from aunts, uncles, grandparents who'd traveled from 3 different states to watch me walk across that stage. 5 minutes later, when I turned back to grab it, the table was bare. And across the room, my sister Madison was smiling at me, her purse bulging at the seams, waving like nothing had happened. I froze. The kind of freeze that happens when your brain knows something is wrong, but your heart hasn't caught up yet. Around me, the reception hall at the Hilton buzzed with laughter. Graduates in caps and gowns posed for photos near the fountain in the lobby. Parents clinked champagne glasses. Someone's dad was giving a toast about the American dream and hard work paying off. But all I could hear was the blood pounding in my ears. I walked back to the table slowly, scanning every inch of white linen like the envelope might reappear if I just looked hard enough. It didn't. My best friend Jenna noticed first. "Leah, you okay?" she asked, touching my arm. I couldn't answer. I just stared at the empty space where my future had been sitting 30 seconds ago. $15,000. Gone. That money wasn't just cash. It was 4 years of double shifts at Target while my classmates partied. It was sleeping 3 hours a night to finish my psychology degree with honors while my sister Madison bounced between community colleges, dropping classes every semester. It was proof that someone, anyone, saw me. And now it was gone. Before I continue, I want you to pause for a second. Tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing the cities and states pop up in the comments. And if you've ever been pushed aside by the very people who were supposed to protect you, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, this story isn't just about pain. It's about survival and the kind of revenge no one ever sees coming. I scanned the room. My parents were near the dessert table, my mom in her floral dress laughing with my Aunt Carol from Ohio. My dad, still wearing his work boots under his dress pants because he'd driven straight from his construction job in Jersey to make it to my graduation. They looked proud. Finally, after 4 years of acting like my degree was just a nice hobby, they looked proud. And there was Madison. 26 years old, still living at home, standing near the exit with her boyfriend Trevor. Her purse, a cheap knockoff Coach bag she'd bought at the outlets in Woodbury Commons, hung heavy on her shoulder. Too heavy. She caught my eye and smiled wider, that same sugary smile she'd used our whole lives to get away with everything. I knew. In that moment, standing in that Hilton reception hall in Westchester with 200 people celebrating around me, I knew exactly what she'd done. My hand started shaking. Not from fear. From clarity. The kind that cuts through years of being told to be the bigger person and don't make a scene. Jenna whispered, "Do you think someone took it?" I turned to her, my voice steady and cold. Not someone. Madison. What happened next wasn't just about getting my money back. It was about exposing 15 years of theft, lies, and a family that had spent my entire life protecting the wrong daughter. By the end of this story, Madison would be standing in front of every relative who'd ever called her the sweet one, watching security footage of herself stealing from me. And my parents, the ones who'd spent decades telling me to stay quiet, to be understanding, to let things slide, they'd finally have to face what they'd created. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the moment it all started to unravel. The reception was winding down. Graduates were saying their goodbyes, heading out to late-night diners in Manhattan or dive bars in Brooklyn. My Uncle Frank from Pennsylvania had just finished a long story about his own college graduation in 1987. My Aunt Carol was packing up leftover sheet cake into Tupperware, the kind every Midwestern family keeps a drawer full of. The DJ was playing Don't Stop Believin' for the 3rd time, and someone's little cousin was doing the Cupid shuffle near the punch bowl. I should have been happy. 4 years at SUNY Purchase, a 3.9 GPA, honors in psychology, and a job offer from a mental health clinic in White Plains starting in 2 weeks. I'd done everything right. Worked my way through school while Madison flunked out of Westchester Community College twice. Paid my own rent in a shoebox apartment in Yonkers while she lived rent-free in our parents' basement. I'd earned this moment. But all I could think about was that envelope. I pulled Jenna aside near the bathrooms, away from the crowd. "I need to check the security cameras," I said. She blinked. "The what?" "The hotel has cameras everywhere. I've been to enough weddings here to know they cover the whole reception area. If Madison took that envelope, it's on tape." Jenna's eyes widened. "Leah, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, it's your sister." That phrase. It's your sister. I'd heard it my whole life. When Madison stole my car keys in high school and crashed my Honda Civic into a mailbox on Route 9, leaving me to pay the deductible. It's your sister, Leah. Forgive her. When she borrowed $500 for rent and I later found out she'd spent it on a weekend trip to Atlantic City. It's your sister. She's going through a tough time. I looked at Jenna, my voice quiet but sharp. You're right. She is my sister. And that's exactly why I know she did it. 10 minutes later, I was at the front desk talking to Marcus, the hotel manager I'd seen coordinating the event all evening. He was a tall black man in his 40s with a calm, professional demeanor, the kind of guy who'd worked every type of event from bar mitzvahs to corporate galas. "I need to report a theft," I said. "From the gift table." "About 15 minutes ago." His expression shifted immediately. "How much are we talking about?" $15,000. He exhaled slowly. "Okay. Let me pull the footage. We'll need to file a police report, but let's see what we've got first." I nodded, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about every time my parents had chosen Madison over me. Every time they'd laughed off her behavior while holding me to impossible standards. Every time I'd been told to be the responsible one while she got away with everything. Marcus led me to a small office behind the front desk. "Give me 5 minutes," he said. I waited, watching the clock on the wall tick forward. Outside, I could hear my mom's voice calling my name, probably wondering where I'd gone. But I didn't move. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running to fix things. I was standing still, waiting for the truth to come to me. And when it did, everything would change. Growing up in our house in Mount Vernon, New York, there were 2 sets of rules. One for Madison, and one for me. I learned that early, probably around the time I was 8 and she was 6, when she broke my science fair project the night before the competition and my parents told me to make do with what's left. I came in second place with a half-destroyed volcano. Madison got ice cream that night because she'd had a hard day. That became the pattern. Madison had hard days. I had responsibilities. When we were teenagers, she'd sneak out to parties in New Rochelle and come home at 3 in the morning smelling like cheap beer and cigarettes. My parents would ground her for a week, then forget about it by Tuesday. Meanwhile, if I came home 15 minutes late from my shift at the Barnes and Noble in the Palisades Center, my dad would be waiting at the door, arms crossed, asking if I thought rules didn't apply to me. "You're the older one," my mom would say. "You should know better." I did know better. That was the problem. I knew better than to ask for help with college applications while Madison was having another breakdown about her boyfriend. I knew better than to celebrate my acceptance to SUNY Purchase too loudly because it might make Madison feel bad about getting rejected from every school she'd applied to. I knew better than to expect my parents at my college orientation because Madison needed them to help her move into her dorm at Westchester Community College, a school 20 minutes from our house. By the time I graduated high school, I'd become a ghost in my own family. I worked double shifts at Target in White Plains, saved every dollar, applied for every scholarship I could find. I got a partial ride to SUNY Purchase and covered the rest with student loans and a work-study job in the library. My parents didn't offer to help. They were too busy paying Madison's tuition every semester, even after she dropped half her classes. "She just needs to find herself," my mom said over Thanksgiving dinner my sophomore year, while Madison scrolled through Instagram on her phone at the table. I wanted to ask, when do I get to find myself? But I didn't. I just passed the mashed potatoes and kept my mouth shut. College was supposed to be my escape. For years in Purchase, a small artsy town in Westchester where I could breathe, where no one knew I was the responsible sister. I threw myself into my psychology major, fascinated by family dynamics and generational trauma. Ironic, right? I was studying dysfunctional families while living in one. I made friends. Real friends, like Jenna, who grew up in the Bronx and understood what it meant to work for everything. We'd study at diners on Central Avenue until 2 in the morning, splitting cheese fries and refilling our coffee cups until the waitress gave up and just left the pot. On weekends, we'd take the Metro North into Grand Central and wander around the city, pretending we were the kind of people who belonged there. But every time I went home, the old pattern returned. Madison would be on the couch, complaining about her latest job or her latest breakup, and my parents would nod sympathetically. I'd walk in with a 4.0 GPA and news about getting into an honor society, and my dad would glance up from the TV and say, "That's great, honey," before turning back to the Yankees game. Senior year, things got worse. Madison dropped out of community college for good and moved back home full-time. She worked part-time at a Forever 21 in the mall and spent the rest of her time posting selfies and going to bars in Yonkers with her boyfriend Trevor, a guy who'd never held a job longer than 3 months. Meanwhile, I was juggling a full course load, an internship at a mental health clinic in Mount Kisco, and weekend shifts at Target. I was exhausted, running on 4 hours of sleep and gas station coffee. But I kept going because graduation was the finish line. The moment I could finally prove to myself, if not to them, that I'd made it. The irony is, I'd invited them all to my graduation. My parents, Madison, even Aunt Carol and Uncle Frank. I wanted them there. I wanted them to see me walk across that stage. I thought maybe, finally, they'd understand what I'd sacrificed. Instead, Madison saw an opportunity. Marcus pulled up the security footage on his computer screen, timestamp glowing in the corner, 4:47 p.m. The reception hall filled the frame, dozens of people milling around the gift table, laughing, hugging, taking photos. I watched myself on screen, young and hopeful in my cap and gown, setting the thick white envelope down carefully beside a tower of wrapped presents and gift bags. "That's it," I said, pointing. "That envelope right there." Marcus nodded, his fingers moving quickly over the keyboard. "I'm going to speed through the next few minutes. Watch the table." The footage jumped forward in fast motion. People moved like ghosts, flickering in and out of frame. My relatives hovered near the dessert table, my mom chatting with Aunt Carol, my dad shaking hands with Uncle Frank. Everything looked normal. Just another graduation party at a Hilton in Westchester County. Then, at 4:52 p.m., Madison appeared on screen. My breath caught. Marcus slowed the footage back to normal speed. Madison glanced around, her movements casual, like she was just browsing. She picked up a card, pretended to read it, set it back down. Then her hand hovered over my envelope. She looked left. Then right. Her boyfriend Trevor was standing a few feet away, blocking the view from most of the room, scrolling on his phone. And then she did it. One smooth motion. The envelope disappeared into her oversized purse like it had never existed. She adjusted the strap on her shoulder, smiled at someone off camera, and walked away. The whole thing took 7 seconds. I felt something cold spread through my chest. Not shock. Not even anger yet. Just a hollow, clarifying silence. "Jesus," Marcus muttered. I stared at the screen, watching Madison laugh with my cousin Emily near the punch bowl, her purse hanging heavy. $15,000. 4 years of my life. Stolen in 7 seconds while my entire family celebrated 10 feet away. "Do you know her?" Marcus asked carefully. "That's my sister," I said. The words tasted like metal. He turned to look at me, his professional mask slipping for just a second. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I nodded, numb. Can you save that footage? Already on it, he said, typing quickly. I'm copying it to a flash drive and sending it to our security team. We'll need to file a police report. This is theft, plain and simple. Doesn't matter if she's family. But it did matter. That was the whole point. It mattered because this wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th time. This was just the first time there was proof. The first time I could point to something concrete and say, look. See what she did. See what you all ignored. I pulled out my phone and opened our family group chat. My mom had posted a photo 20 minutes ago, Madison and me standing together near the stage, her arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling. The caption read, "So proud of both my girls today." Both her girls. As if we'd accomplished something together. As if Madison hadn't just robbed me blind while wearing that same smile. I scrolled up through the chat history. Messages from relatives I barely saw except at weddings and funerals. Aunt Carol from Ohio, congrats Leah. So proud. Uncle Frank from Pennsylvania, knew you could do it kiddo. My grandmother in Florida, my brilliant granddaughter. They'd all given cash. Tucked into cards with handwritten notes about hard work and following dreams and making the family proud. I'd watched them drop those envelopes onto the gift table one by one, each person hugging me, telling me they believed in me. And Madison had taken it all. Marcus handed me a flash drive. This has the full footage, plus timestamps. When the police get here, show them this first. I closed my fist around the small plastic drive, feeling its weight. Evidence. Finally, after a lifetime of being told I was overreacting, being too sensitive, making things bigger than they were, I had proof. My phone buzzed. A text from Madison in the family chat, heading out early, tired. Love you sis, so proud of you. I stared at those words, at the graduation cap emoji, at the casual cruelty of someone who could steal from you and call it love in the same breath. That's when the anger finally came. Not hot. Not loud. Cold and surgical and absolutely certain. I typed back, don't go far. We need to talk. The police arrived 40 minutes later. 2 officers from the Mount Vernon PD, a younger white woman named Officer Brennan and an older Hispanic man named Officer Torres. They'd probably been expecting a standard theft report, maybe a drunk guest or a catering staff mix-up. Instead, they got family drama at a Hilton graduation party. Marcus met them in the lobby and brought them to the back office where I was waiting. I'd watched the footage 3 more times by then, memorizing every detail. The way Madison's eyes darted left and right before grabbing the envelope. The way Trevor positioned himself as a human shield. The way she adjusted her purse strap afterward, casual, practiced, like this wasn't her first time. Ms. Carter? Officer Brennan pulled out a notepad. We understand there's been a theft? $15,000, I said. Cash and checks. From the gift table during my graduation reception. Officer Torres raised his eyebrows. That's a significant amount. Do you have any idea who might have taken it? I handed them the flash drive. I have video evidence. They exchanged a glance. Marcus gestured to his computer. I can pull it up right here if you want to see it. 5 minutes later, both officers were leaning toward the screen, watching Madison commit theft in high definition. Officer Brennan's jaw tightened. Officer Torres shook his head slowly, the way you do when you've seen this kind of thing too many times. That's your sister? Officer Brennan asked, glancing at me. Yes. And you're certain that envelope contained $15,000? I watched my relatives put their cards in it all afternoon. My grandmother from Boca Raton gave me $2,000 in a card with a picture of palm trees on it. My Uncle Frank from Pittsburgh gave me $1,000 in $100 bills because he doesn't trust banks. My Aunt Carol from Cleveland gave me $500 and made me promise to use it for something fun. I can give you the exact breakdown if you need it. Officer Torres nodded. We'll need a detailed list of contributors if possible. Anyone who can verify what they gave you. I can get that, I said. Most of them are still here. Officer Brennan closed her notepad. Here's what happens next. We have clear video evidence of the theft. We'll need to bring your sister in for questioning. Given the amount and the video evidence, the DA will likely file charges. This is grand larceny in New York, a classy felony. The word hung in the air. Felony. I watched it land, felt the weight of it settle in my chest. This wasn't just about getting my money back anymore. This was about Madison having a criminal record. This was about my parents having to watch their golden child get arrested. This was about consequences, finally, after 26 years of none. What do you need from me? I asked. First, we need you to make a formal statement. Then we'll need contact information for your sister. After that, we'll go talk to her. I pulled out my phone and opened Madison's contact. Her profile picture was a selfie from last summer, sunglasses, and a wide smile at Jones Beach. I stared at it for a second, thinking about all the times I'd covered for her. All the times I'd loaned her money she never paid back. All the times my parents had asked me to be understanding because Madison was struggling. Well, she was about to struggle a lot more. I gave the officers her phone number and our parents' address in Mount Vernon. Officer Brennan wrote it down carefully. Is she still at the venue? She texted 20 minutes ago saying she was leaving. But she's probably still in the parking lot. Her boyfriend drives a black Ford F-150 with a dent in the passenger door. You can't miss it. Officer Torres stood up. We'll go find her now. Ms. Carter, I know this is difficult. Family situations always are. But you're doing the right thing. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The right thing. I'd spent my entire life doing the right thing. Being responsible. Being understanding. Being invisible. And where had it gotten me? Standing in a hotel office on what should have been the best day of my life, filing a police report against my own sister. Officer Brennan paused at the door. One more thing. Do your parents know about this yet? No, I said. They're going to find out soon. You might want to prepare yourself for that conversation. After they left, Marcus offered me a bottle of water. I took it but didn't drink. My hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally catching up with clarity. Outside, through the office window, I could see my parents still at the reception. My mom was hugging Aunt Carol goodbye. My dad was carrying leftover cake to the car. They had no idea that in about 10 minutes, 2 police officers were going to pull their youngest daughter aside in the parking lot and question her about felony theft. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt like a traitor. Instead, I felt free. I sat in that office for another 20 minutes, the water bottle sweating in my hand, staring at the computer screen even though the footage had stopped playing. Marcus had stepped out to give me privacy, probably sensing I needed a moment to fall apart. But I didn't cry. I just sat there, numb, as everything I'd ignored for 23 years finally crystallized into something I couldn't unsee. This wasn't just about $15,000. It was about the time in 10th grade when Madison borrowed my laptop to write a paper and returned it with a cracked screen, claiming I must have dropped it. My parents made me pay for the repair because I should have been more careful about where I left my things. Cost me 3 weeks of Target paychecks. It was about my 16th birthday when Madison threw a tantrum because she didn't like the restaurant my parents had chosen for my celebration. We ended up at Olive Garden, her favorite, and she spent the whole dinner on her phone while I ate breadsticks and pretended it was fine. It was about the time I saved $2,000 from working at Barnes & Noble, money I'd hidden in a shoebox in my closet for a summer trip to visit my friend in Boston. 1 week before I was supposed to leave, the money was gone. Madison swore she didn't take it. my parents believed her. I stayed home that summer and picked up extra shifts to rebuild my savings. It was about every single time my accomplishments were met with silence while Madison's mediocrity was celebrated like a miracle. When I got a 1410 on my SATs, my dad said, "That's good." When Madison managed to pass her driver's test on the third try, my parents took her to Applebee's and posted about it on Facebook. It was about the suffocating realization that in my family, love wasn't unconditional. It was transactional. And I'd been on the losing end of that transaction my entire life. My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, "Where are you? Your mom is looking for you." I typed back, still with hotel security. "I'll explain later." Another buzz. This time from my mom, "Leah, where did you go? We're taking family photos before everyone leaves." Family photos. I almost laughed. The same family photos where I'd smile and pretend everything was fine while Madison stood next to me wearing the earrings she'd stolen from my jewelry box. The same ones I'd bought myself after my first paycheck from my internship in Mount Kisco. The same family photos my parents would post on Facebook with captions about being blessed, while I drove back to my shoebox apartment in Yonkers alone, wondering why I was never enough. I thought about my graduation ceremony that morning. Walking across the stage at the Westchester County Center, hearing my name called, shaking the dean's hand. I'd scanned the crowd looking for my parents. Found them eventually, 5 rows back. My dad was checking his phone. My mom was whispering something to Madison. Neither of them were watching me. But when Madison had graduated from beauty school last year, a 6-month certificate program she barely finished, my parents had thrown her a party at our house in Mount Vernon. Invited 30 people. Bought a custom cake from the bakery on 4th Avenue. My mom had cried actual tears and posted an album on Facebook titled, "So Proud of Our Girl." I didn't even get a card when I graduated summa cum laude from high school. The office door opened. Marcus stepped back in, his expression careful. "The officers just radioed. They found your sister in the parking lot. They're bringing her back inside to question her." My stomach dropped. This was real now. There was no taking it back. In a few minutes, Madison would realize I'd turned her in. My parents would find out. The entire family would know. And I'd become the villain in their story, the ungrateful daughter who couldn't let things go, who made a scene at her own graduation, who called the police on her own sister over money. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was simpler and sadder. I was just the daughter who finally got tired of being stolen from. Marcus sat down across from me. "You okay?" I looked at him, this stranger who'd shown me more kindness in the last hour than my family had in years. "No," I said honestly. "But I will be." He nodded. "For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Family or not, theft is theft." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "In my family, theft was just called borrowing." And I was supposed to smile and say it was fine. The storm hit 15 minutes later. I was still in the office when I heard my mother's voice echoing through the hotel lobby, sharp and frantic. "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" Marcus glanced at me. "You want me to?" "No," I said, standing up. "I'll handle it." But I wasn't ready. No amount of preparation could have readied me for what happened when I walked out of that office and saw my entire family standing in the lobby like a firing squad. My mom spotted me first. Her face was red, mascara smudged under her eyes. "Leah, what have you done?" Behind her, my dad stood with his arms crossed, jaw tight. Aunt Carol hovered nearby looking uncomfortable, and Uncle Frank kept glancing toward the door like he wanted to escape. Jenna stood off to the side, eyes wide, mouthing, "What happened? What have I done?" I repeated slowly. "Mom, Madison stole $15,000 from me." "She didn't steal anything," my mom snapped. "She borrowed it. She was going to pay you back." The word borrowed hit me like a slap. Of course. Of course that's what Madison had told them. And of course they believed her. She took it without asking, I said, keeping my voice level. That's called stealing. My dad stepped forward. You called the police on your own sister. At your graduation. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Humiliating for who? The words came out sharper than I intended. For you? Because people might find out your daughter is a thief? Or humiliating for me, because I just found out my entire family thinks it's okay to steal from me as long as we call it something else. Don't you dare take that tone with your father, my mom said, her voice shaking. We raised you better than this. I laughed. Actually laughed. You raised me to stay quiet while Madison took whatever she wanted. You raised me to work 3 jobs and pay my own way while you paid for her to drop out of community college twice. You raised me to accept scraps and call it love. Aunt Carol touched my mom's arm gently. Linda, maybe we should. Stay out of this, Carol, my mom snapped. Then she turned back to me, tears streaming down her face now. Madison made a mistake. She's struggling right now. Trevor just lost his job, and they're behind on rent. She panicked. She wasn't thinking straight. And what about me? I asked quietly. What about the fact that I worked 60-hour weeks my entire senior year to graduate debt-free? What about the fact that I've loaned Madison thousands of dollars over the years that she never paid back? What about the fact that on the one day that was supposed to be about me, she saw an opportunity and took it? My dad's voice dropped to that low, dangerous tone he used when he wanted to end an argument. You're going to drop these charges. Right now. We'll get the money back to you, every penny. But you will not destroy your sister's life over this. Destroy her life? I stared at him. Dad, she committed a felony. On camera. She destroyed her own life. She's your sister, my mom sobbed. Family forgives. Family moves on. There it was again. Family. The word they used like a weapon, like a cage, like a reason to keep accepting the unacceptable. No, I said. The lobby went silent. Even the distant sound of the reception seemed to pause. What did you say? My dad asked. I said no. My voice was steady now, clear. I'm not dropping the charges. I'm not pretending this didn't happen. I'm not making myself smaller so Madison can keep taking up all the space. My mom's face crumpled. If you do this, you're choosing to tear this family apart. I didn't tear it apart, I said. It was already broken. I'm just the first one honest enough to say it out loud. Uncle Frank cleared his throat. Linda, maybe the kid has a point. I mean, 15 grand is. Frank, don't, my mom warned. But he kept going. I'm just saying, if one of my kids stole from the other, there'd be consequences. You can't just sweep this under the rug because it's uncomfortable. My dad shot him a look that could cut glass. This is none of your business. I gave Leah $1,000, Uncle Frank said quietly. In that envelope. So yeah, it kind of is my business. Aunt Carol nodded slowly. I gave $500. And I wrote a note telling her how proud I was. She looked at my mom. Linda, this isn't right. You know it's not. My mom turned on them, her voice rising. You don't understand. Madison has always been sensitive. She needs more support. Leah has always been fine on her own. Because I had to be, I said. Because no one was coming to save me. The words hung in the air, raw and true. My mom opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in my life, she had nothing to say. That's when Officer Brennan walked back into the lobby, Madison beside her in handcuffs. Madison's eyes found mine across the lobby, red-rimmed and desperate. Leah, please. Tell them this is a mistake. I looked at her, at the handcuffs glinting under the hotel lights, at her purse being held as evidence by Officer Torres. The same purse that had been bulging 20 minutes ago. The same purse that had swallowed my future in 7 seconds. It's not a mistake, I said quietly. My mom lunged forward, but my dad caught her arm. Madison, baby, don't say anything. We'll get you a lawyer. Officer Brennan's voice cut through the chaos, professional and firm. Ms. Collins has been read her rights. She'll be processed at the station. You can contact her there. As they led Madison toward the exit, she twisted back, her voice breaking. I was going to give it back, Leah. I swear. I just needed it for a few days. I thought about all the other times she'd said that. The laptop. The car. The $2,000 from my shoebox. Always the same promise. Always the same lie. The envelope was heavy when I set it down, I said, my voice carrying across the lobby. 5 minutes later it was gone. And you were smiling. Madison's face crumpled as the doors closed behind her. The lobby emptied slowly after that. Relatives mumbled awkward goodbyes, avoiding eye contact. Uncle Frank squeezed my shoulder as he left. You did the right thing, kid. Aunt Carol hugged me tight and whispered, I'm sorry it came to this. My parents left without a word. My mom wouldn't look at me. My dad's face was stone. When they were gone, Jenna finally approached. Holy hell, Leah. I sank onto one of the lobby couches, the adrenaline draining out of me all at once. I just blew up my entire family. No, she said, sitting beside me. You just stopped letting them blow you up. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the hotel staff clean up the reception hall through the glass doors. White tablecloths being folded. Centerpieces being packed away. The gift table, now empty, being rolled into storage. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi Leah, this is Marcus from the Hilton. Just wanted to check in. The footage is secured, and I provided copies to the police. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to call. And for what it's worth, I've worked in hospitality for 20 years. I've seen a lot of family drama. You handled this with more grace than most. Wishing you all the best. I read it twice, then showed it to Jenna. See, she said. Even the hotel manager thinks you're a badass. I laughed, the sound surprising me. I don't feel like a badass. I feel like an orphan. Maybe, Jenna said gently. But you're an orphan with a college degree, a job offer, and $15,000 of evidence that you're done being a doormat. She was right. As we walked out of the Hilton into the parking lot, the sun was setting over Westchester, painting everything gold and orange. My car sat alone near the back, the same beat-up Honda Civic I'd been driving since high school, the one Madison had crashed and never apologized for. I unlocked it and sat in the driver's seat, not starting the engine yet. Just breathing. The day had started with a graduation ceremony. It was ending with handcuffs and family implosion. But somewhere between the morning and now, something had shifted. The weight I'd been carrying my entire life, the weight of being the responsible one, the understanding one, the one who always forgave, it was gone. I pulled out my phone and opened my family group chat one last time. My mom had already removed me. I smiled, deleted the entire thread, and drove toward the Hutchinson River Parkway, heading back to my apartment in Yonkers. The envelope was gone. But for the first time, I wasn't. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom in White Plains, watching Madison stand before a judge in a gray blazer that my mom had probably bought her for the occasion. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, the picture of remorse. Trevor wasn't there. He'd left her 2 weeks after the arrest, moved back to his parents' place in Poughkeepsie. Turns out loyalty only lasted as long as there was something to gain. The prosecutor laid out the case with clinical precision. Video evidence. Witness statements from hotel staff. My detailed accounting of every card, every relative, every dollar that had disappeared into Madison's purse. The defense tried to paint her as a desperate young woman who made one mistake, who'd been planning to return the money, who was overwhelmed by financial pressure. The judge wasn't buying it. "Ms. Collins," he said, looking at Madison over his reading glasses. "You stole $15,000 from your sister on what should have been one of the proudest days of her life. This wasn't a crime of desperation. This was calculated. You waited until she was distracted, positioned your boyfriend to block the view, and took what didn't belong to you. That shows premeditation." Madison's shoulders shook. My mom, sitting in the gallery behind her, covered her mouth with her hand. My dad stared straight ahead, expressionless. I sat on the opposite side of the courtroom with Jenna. She'd taken the morning off from her job at a nonprofit in the Bronx to be there. Uncle Frank had flown in from Pennsylvania. Aunt Carol drove down from Cleveland. They sat with me, a smaller version of family, the ones who believed that theft was theft, even when it wore your last name. The judge continued. "Given the amount involved and the clear video evidence, I'm sentencing you to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and full restitution of $15,000 to be paid within 18 months. You'll also be required to attend financial counseling and anger management courses." Madison sobbed openly now. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder. "Additionally," the judge said, "I'm issuing a restraining order. You are not to contact your sister directly or indirectly for a period of 2 years. If she chooses to lift that order, that's her decision. But for now, you will have no contact." When the gavel came down, the sound echoed through the small courtroom like a period at the end of a sentence. Afterward, in the hallway outside, my parents approached. My mom looked 10 years older, her face drawn and tired. My dad's hands were shoved deep in his pockets. "Are you happy now?" my mom asked, her voice hollow. I looked at her, this woman who'd raised me to believe my worth was measured by how much I could endure. "No, Mom. I'm not happy. But I'm free. She's your sister, Leah. She made a mistake. She made a choice," I corrected. "And you made a choice too. You chose to defend her instead of protecting me. You chose to call me dramatic instead of holding her accountable. You've been making that choice my entire life." My dad finally spoke, his voice rough. "What do you want from us?" It was a fair question. I'd thought about it a lot over the past 3 months. Late nights in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering what closure actually looked like. "I want you to understand that love isn't supposed to cost this much," I said quietly. "I want you to see that the way you treated me wasn't normal. And I want you to know that I'm done shrinking myself to make room for Madison's chaos." My mom's eyes filled with tears. "So that's it? You're just cutting us off?" "I'm not cutting you off," I said. "I'm drawing a boundary. If you can respect it, maybe we can rebuild something. But it won't look like it did before. I'm done being invisible." Uncle Frank stepped forward then, his presence solid and grounding. "Linda, Bob, I love you both. But your daughter just told you how she feels. Maybe instead of fighting her, you should listen." My mom turned away, crying. My dad put his arm around her and they walked toward the elevator without another word. Jenna squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I watched them disappear behind the elevator doors, 2 people who'd given me life but never really saw me. "Yeah," I said. "I really am." Outside, the September sun was warm on my face. I'd started my job at the mental health clinic in Mount Kisco. I'd moved into a better apartment in White Plains, one with actual closet space and windows that didn't rattle. The restitution payments were being deposited into my account monthly, exactly on schedule. But the best part wasn't the money. It was waking up every morning without the weight of their expectations crushing my chest. 6 months after the courtroom, I was sitting on my balcony in White Plains with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise paint the sky pink and gold. My phone buzzed with a notification. An email from the court system, final restitution payment received. Account closed. $15,000. Fully repaid. The number had haunted me for half a year, but now it was just a closed case, a finished chapter. I thought about Madison sometimes, wondered if she'd learned anything, if probation and community service had changed her the way prison changes people in movies. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. That was the strangest part of healing. Realizing that the people who once consumed your entire emotional landscape could fade into background noise if you let them. My relationship with my parents was complicated. We talked occasionally, stiff phone calls where my mom asked how work was going and I gave polite answers. My dad sent a card on my birthday with $100 bill inside and a note that said, "Proud of you." It wasn't much, but it was more than I'd gotten before. Maybe that was progress. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, I'd stopped waiting for them to become the parents I needed. I'd started becoming the person I needed instead. Jenna and I got an apartment together in Terrytown, a cute 2-bedroom near the Hudson River. We'd walk along the waterfront on weekends, get bagels at the deli on Main Street, live the kind of quiet, normal life I'd dreamed about during those chaotic years in college. She was my family now. Along with Uncle Frank, who called every Sunday. And Aunt Carol, who sent care packages from Cleveland filled with homemade cookies and encouraging notes. I learned something important during those months: family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up. It's about who believes you when you say you're hurt. It's about who holds you accountable when you're wrong and stands beside you when you're right. The mental health clinic job turned out to be exactly what I needed. I worked with teenagers, mostly kids from broken homes who'd learned to stay quiet to survive. I saw myself in every single one of them. And when they'd tell me their stories, about parents who didn't see them or siblings who overshadowed them, I'd listen with the kind of attention I'd always craved. "You're not invisible," I'd tell them. "You're just surrounded by people who aren't looking." One afternoon, a 16-year-old girl named Maya sat across from me in my office, arms crossed, face hard. "My sister stole money from me," she said. "And my parents said I should let it go because family is family." I recognized that script. I'd lived it. "What do you want to do?" I asked. She looked surprised, like no adult had ever asked her that before. "I want her to face consequences. But everyone thinks I'm being mean." "Setting a boundary isn't mean," I said gently. "It's necessary. And if people call you mean for protecting yourself, that tells you more about them than it does about you." Her eyes filled with tears. "So I'm not crazy?" "No, Maya. You're not crazy. You're just tired of being stolen from." She nodded, and I saw the exact moment something shifted in her face, the same shift I'd felt standing in that Hilton lobby 6 months ago. The moment you realize you don't have to keep accepting the unacceptable just because someone shares your DNA. After she left, I sat at my desk thinking about how many people were walking around carrying the weight of family dysfunction, believing they were wrong for wanting better, for demanding respect, for refusing to be a doormat. That's when I decided to share my story. Not for revenge. Not for attention. But because somewhere out there, someone needed to hear that it's okay to fight back. That silence isn't strength. That family isn't a free pass to treat you however they want. So here I am, telling you what happened. Not because I'm proud of turning my sister in, but because I'm proud of finally valuing myself enough to stop letting people steal from me, literally and emotionally. Before I finish, I want you to do something for me. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next story. And drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. I love seeing your cities and countries pop up. If you've ever had to set a boundary that cost you a relationship, share your story. You'd be surprised how many people need to hear it. The envelope was heavy when I set it down. And when it disappeared, so did my tolerance for being treated like I didn't matter. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't keeping the peace. It's choosing yourself when everyone else expects you to choose them. If this story taught me anything, it's that you can't steal from someone who knows their worth. And I finally know mine.